Okay, well, it's not been that long since we've met, but boy, things have changed, haven't they? Um, you know, it's one thing to be um, a student of history or teach history, study history, something else to be part of it. Um, and I'm sitting here in my home. Um, I'm probably not going to leave it for a couple of weeks here. Maybe get some food and, you know, hopefully the wolves and wolverines and the other creatures that are waiting outside to run us down and kill us and eat us will not have taken over the streets by that time. I expect to be carrying, a weapon in case in 2 weeks things have gotten badly out of hand out there. Wildlife, it's wild. Um, the last time we met, we were talking about essentially the idea that people dig in the soil, put water over the soil, and that helps create disease. And it's not too crazy an idea that before we get to recorded history, that human beings, as and there's certainly archaeological evidence to show this, that human beings did dig in the soil, um, and every so often, when they dug in the soil, they unleashed some organism that just simply had themselves a holiday. I mean, something that might have been lying there or reproducing for millions of years suddenly had something fresh come along in the shape of a human being. And people stirred up the ground and breathed it in, and next thing you know, you have a really great disease going. You absorb it through your skin. And I don't think this was at all unusual. I think, in fact, it was most likely very common. Same thing, of course, with water. You put a couple of inches of water on top of something, and some organism who's just been waiting to burst out and infects something that puts water on top of it, bursts out and infects us. So these diseases, this type of thing was not at all uncommon. In fact, it was probably the most common way for diseases to get going. Now, obviously, every place has diseases. Every place, tops of trees, the bushes, the vegetation, all of them carry certain types of things, microbes, viruses, bacteria, parasites. All of them carry things which could possibly make the leap to us, or really to an animal, and then to us. Reason to believe that the coronavirus probably started on a duck or a chicken or something like that, at least the one we've got. And then did great things from there on. It's having itself a heyday out there right now. And we are isolated in our homes and dormitories in some cases. And I know some of you are in dormitories. Again, this has not been uncommon. And one of the things that happens, of course, is that you get a good disease out there, and what keeps it from wiping out everything is that what generally happens is that the disease gets weaker. And there's some evidence that the coronavirus is getting weaker. There's a second strain of it now, which appears not to be quite as ferocious as the first strain. And that makes sense because, like any good virus, it wants to keep its host alive, or any good parasite. It wants to keep its host alive so it can go on and make other parasites. And that's not at all unusual. Also, too, is that human beings over a period of time tend to strengthen. It may be that none of us have genes that are particularly good to defend us from the coronavirus. At least it appears that way. But give 150 years, and those genes that were a little bit helpful in controlling an infection will begin to essentially mutate and strengthen, and the end result will be that you have people who are more resistant to the coronavirus or any other virus. It's just the way it works. Now, there's probably a few diseases out there where this process of mutual adaptation, where the virus gets weaker, or the bacterium or the other parasite gets weaker, where that doesn't happen, and where human beings don't adapt to adapt to a particular disease. But there aren't many. There are also some diseases where almost certainly the potential for something to go really wrong is there. There aren't many of those, but it could be that you would have a disease which would not adapt, and you would have human beings at the same time. You would have human beings that could not adapt, and the end result would be we would all die. But that's very unlikely. Still, the cycle of adaptation, roughly speaking, is about 150 years. And when syphilis first hit Europe, as an example, it literally ate people alive. I mean, it would just simply crunch your cartilage and eat your flesh and destroy your bones. And nowadays, syphilis destroys you mostly by what it does to your brain, but you're not being visibly eaten by that. So, and from the point of view of syphilis, to 20, 30, 40 years after the original infection, you're still around spreading little bits of syphilis to other people. From the point of view of syphilis, this is a pretty good trait. When we get to the part of where we settle down in villages, and so we're farming the same land all the time, you're not going to get, with luck, you're not going to get new viruses or bacteria or parasites after you've been settled there for a while, after say a couple of generations have gone by in this new village. But what happens is that people get sick all the time. That is, they're always sick. The bacteria, or whatever parasite we're talking about, they're always successful. But the odd thing that happens is that over a very short period of time, looking at it historically, human beings develop enough strength to withstand whatever it is in the village that makes them sick. And the viruses, or what other parasites you're talking about, weaken enough so that they don't knock off their host on a regular basis. So in a situation like that, people are always sick, but they're not always dying. And who dies? Well, it's a selection of the fittest. At some point, if you're sick all the time and you get old enough, you're going to die, and you're going to die of that disease. If if you're young and healthy and all that, you may be made sick and weak and all that. In fact, that was fairly common, probably much more common than it was otherwise. But you lived and you reproduced, and by God, so did the viruses, the bacteria, the parasites. They reproduced, and everybody lived in one big happy pool of sickness. And so that's what began to happen probably as early as 11,000 BCE, maybe even before that. It kind of depends upon when the scratching of the ground begins. But certainly by 4,000 or 5,000 BCE, The cycle is well established. You break ground or you flood it, you get rid of the weeds, and you get sick. But you're well fed or better fed, and your virus is no longer the ravaging, rampaging virus or bacteria or parasite, but it's still going to do okay. And so both sides live along. I doubt that the bacteria feel worse because they are not quite as powerful as they used to be. Of course, human beings feel sick all the time, and that's not so good. But that's basically how the system works and has worked over a very long period of time. All right, on to the next video.